Sorry about that. I forget to set that up a whole lot. How's everybody doing? So just so you know, there's like one person in here maybe. But anyways, the reason I don't have my microphone set up is because it's kind of in the way of everything. So I folded under my desk or a little shelf on my desk to keep it out of the way. Uh, Happy Sunday. How you doing, Baldy? Uh, who else we got? Going to talk about tools tonight. Tank, how you doing, Tank? One more week till I leave on my trip. You can still join in, brother. I might have one person joining in last minute. I don't know. He hasn't said whether he is or not. Right now, he's looking at just meet me up in Arizona. I forget the name of the town, but Arizona. Doing good. Just got back from Canada. Did a little tool shopping while I was there. Awesome. Did you buy some Olsa tools? I really don't know what other tools. Of course, they got Princess Auto. Not sure what else would be a Canadian brand of tools. I wish getting a root canal on the 24th. Not good. Not good, brother. I'll be praying for you. I have no clue about that. I had one tooth, but it was a wisdom tooth, and they repaired it. They did a bad job on it. And he said, we can pull it or I can do a root canal. And I'm like, pull it. Tank. Let's get a root canal. Did a pilgrimage to Princess Auto. The main thing I got was some Pickwick multi-bit drivers. Cool. I'd like to see those. See, Princess Auto Pickwick. What does that say? Pickwick. Multi-bit. See what a picture of that looks like. Oh, it looks cool. Let me show everybody if I can get it up here. Share screen. How you doing, Rob? Pickwick. What do you think about that? Can y'all see it? Can you see my screen? It looks kind of cool. I wouldn't mind trying some out. These are from JB Tools. Is that about what you paid? Baldy? I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off. Let's see. Why, hello. Yep. Doing great. Got a lot of work done this weekend. Made my first batch of pickles. Awesome. Weekend's blue and blackberry picking and jam. Oh, man, that sounds good. Think that's close, but it was in Canadian pesos. Okay. I understand. I'm gonna get a few more minutes and we'll talk about tonight's subject. Um, but yeah, I've had a I've had what should have been a busy week. Um, Struggled this week big time. I've got a video I've been working on, and I get started on it and I can't finish it. Um, well, shoot, I've done some cleanup in the garage and stuff, but hey, you know, I don't know. Uh, when does the band start? I don't know. When do they start, Tank? You gonna be here? What about Rick? Is he gonna be here to play drums for us? Um, I'll play the jug wherever it's at. I don't know. Let's see. What am I drinking tonight? Where's my Where's my baby bottle? There it is. This is Cinder and Smoke. I don't know anything other than that. I just wrote it real small on there. Not sure who makes it. This is part of my 25 days of Christmas bourbon deal. Um, it's not a very dark one. It's really light. So we'll see how it tastes. It's got it does have a slight fruity smell and mixed with rubbing alcohol. So that tells me it probably didn't get aged very much. But first on the tongue, it's real good. It's a bit hot, but that ain't bad. It's good finish. Wish I could tell you what that taste is, but haven't been able to figure it out yet. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. It ain't too bad. I don't think I'd buy it. Formaldehyde. So tonight I was going to talk about American made tools. Let me move my deal here so it's sort of in the middle. Man, I really hate that it does this. Okay, that way I'm looking at myself, so I don't have to look from away from the screen because it's kind of distracting. Anyway, um, if you don't know, Vim Tools just come out with their new line of tools. It's an American-made set of tools. Right now, they've got locking extensions, a decent line of ratchets, and American-made drill bits. The drill bits, I'm willing to bet they're like Norse, made by Norse or someone like that. No, I didn't go get my bucket. I wanted to, but I couldn't get myself out of the house. So I think it looks like the bits are Norse. I could be wrong. The AJ Manufacturing makes the ratchets, and I'm not sure about the extensions at all. Um, I'm waiting on them to do a video on it. Right now, they just did a trailer type deal on their tools, but the prices they're cheaper than Snap-on, but their cost they cost. Um, you're right; those Tekton wrenches look awesome. But check this out. So for a 1/4 inch drive, just a 5-inch straight, 1/4-inch drive. They're FR4 USA 90-tooth ratchet. It's $97.40. I didn't get up anything. I didn't pull up anything to compare it to. But their FR8 USA, which is their 1/2-inch drive, flex head, 24-inch, 90-tooth, is $238.10. So I went to Snap-on. I said, what is the Snap-on? So the difference between these is mainly the handle. The handle on the Snap-on that I got a price on was the soft handle, but the Snap-on was $284, with the Vim Maverick being $238.10. Now that, just in case you don't know, that Maverick is MVRK. I don't know exactly what it stands for. I'm thinking we'll find out at some point. Their 8-inch 3/8 drive, 90-tooth, is $129.87, which feels about right. But yeah, see, hope it sticks long term, but I also think American consumers are willing to pay a bit more for better quality. Question is, what percent does it become good enough to buy? I agree. So the best 1/2-inch long flex head is the Matco one because it's 30 plus inches long. Yeah, that's a significant size. Here's one thing, a few things I was thinking about. One, when I started seeing the teasers for all this, I was kind of hoping Vim was creating some in-house manufacturing. It kind of I was disappointed when I seen that it was AJ Manufacturing, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like about 80% sure that's who's making them, which is the same people that make Matco's ratchets. So I was a little disappointed that they're having someone else make it. In other words, they're really not a direct competitor yet to Snap-on. Their AJ Manufacturing is the direct competitor through Matco and Vim and anyone else they make stuff for. So there's a middleman there, and there's actually probably a couple of middlemen there driving the price up. I think if possible, if Vim could afford to make their own, it could possibly put it at a price point where it would drive prices down a little bit from other stuff. Snap-on has kind of got their foothold, and they'll be hard to beat. It's going to take someone 10 plus years to really, really get in there and pull a product or market share from Snap-on. I truly believe that. They're going to have to be dedicated. This is what we want to do. This is what we're going to do. But at the same time, they have to put themselves in a position, whoever it is, to also pull market share from those that have started buying Taiwan and Chinese and Japan. They've got to pull that market share back on shore to be successful. So they got to wedge themselves in between the two to be successful. It can be done. I really believe it, but they got to be willing to sacrifice, and it's going to be a sacrifice. They're going to have to take a long-term approach to this and take a smaller cut. Their return on investment is going to be low for those first 10 years. And I would imagine it could be non-existent. They could just be paying, for getting stuff out there. Just like, PlayStation used to take a loss on their PlayStation just to sell games. And I think the same with Microsoft on the Xbox and stuff like that. But that's the sacrifice they're going to have to make to be able to claw back or claw some of that market share from the two entities that they're trying to get it from. It's just me. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I hope it sticks long term. Okay, I read that. The best half inch. Yep. The issue with American manufacturing is even if your material costs are the same, there's a 300 to 400% labor cost increase over overseas plants. Americans want an American cost of living wage. I agree, but I also think so. Take Snap-on, for example. No, let's not take Snap-on because I don't know. Let's take Matco, for example. Matco sets their prices to make money off of the tool salesman. So once he buys that product, they make their money. Then it's probably a significant amount. And then he turns around and has to mark it up again. And they have set retail price at roughly an average of 30%, over what he pays for it. So your Matco tool salesman makes on average a 30% off of the tools he sells, which unless he sells a bunch of toolboxes, it's not a lot. And it takes a lot of work to sell enough to make money. So there's money to be made from the others, but they're going to have to sell them at a smaller markup, but still be able to make, money. I agree. Taiwan does make some good tools. And the prices are pretty decent. They've been fluctuating a little bit. I've seen some prices going a little higher, but I think it's because of a lot of factors, to include the trade wars and things like that, the instability in a lot of the economies, things like that are driving prices up. Gear wrench tools are good. I don't think they're as good as they used to be. Y'all can tell me what y'all think. I really don't think gear wrench is what it used to be. When gear wrench first came out with their signature line, which was the gear wrench, they were pretty decent. And I think they were made in the United States. And they started offshoring stuff. But slowly but surely, quality on some of it has went down. And then there could be different qualities of stuff. I'm not completely sure about that. I've heard and I've seen mention of different qualities between some of their products. Maybe some of the stuff they sell in retail stores might not be the same quality that you can get elsewhere. Like they have a tool truck. They're kind of, but they also have distributors, big distributors that sell gear wrench, and they sell a bunch of tools. My local tool shop buys from a distributor, and there's a middleman, and a bunch of different markdowns, markups, and stuff like that. Matco, Snappy, Mac make the majority of their money from the credit lines. It's a very similar business model, automakers. I agree there's a lot there. Excuse me. But there's a lot. They make money. When I say they make their money off of the tool guy, of the seller, the salesman, I'm telling you, if you'd have seen this contract that I had to read over to become a Matco salesman, and the way it was laid out, the cost of some of this stuff, the franchise fees, the different software fees, and you had to buy a lot of this stuff from them. They give you alternatives to some of it, like your tool truck, but they'd make the restrictions ridiculous. So the restriction was your tool truck, if you didn't buy it from who they recommend, which I guarantee they make money off of it, then your truck that you got couldn't have over 25,000 miles. And it couldn't be older than X and X, whatever that, I forget what it was, which is just plain ridiculous. A diesel engine isn't even good and broken in at 25,000 miles. It was just ridiculous. They wanted you to be sort of in debt to them. They needed you to have to hustle to make your money. They didn't want you to be solvent. It felt like, okay, I could be wrong. I understand there's a big deal to have a new truck, to have something that typically is trustworthy, that you're going to be able to get to the shops on time and everything. But it just felt ridiculous. It felt like they wanted to make their money off of you and didn't want anyone else. Yeah, it was. If you ever decide to do that, and you read through those contracts, read through them well. This one was a very long contract. I forget how many pages it was, but 100 and something pages or something like that. I could be wrong. I don't think I'm exaggerating. I read every single bit of it. Every single bit of it. And when I got through, I'm like, this is not for me. Even though for veterans, they give you I think it was $60,000 in tools. I could be wrong. $60,000 retail dollars in tools. So in other words, it was probably 35, between 35 and 40,000. That would be, no, that ain't right. Probably over 40,000, probably between 45 and 50, something like that. Remembering the 30% markup. But yeah. Let's see. Some gear wrench is made in China. Yes, yeah, it is. Gear wrench, their warranty is bad. One auto parts store we used to deal with told us a receipt is needed to warranty gear wrench. Yeah, and that's something. Man, I really miss the old Made in America Craftsman. And you could just bring it into the store and go get one off the shelf, and you were good. But it's not that way anymore. But here's the thing. Snap-on got rid of a dealer. Val Tool, she was selling another product, and Snap-on did not like it. It has a video on it. Snap-on dealer cannot sell out of their route, is in the contract. Matco is the same way. You're not supposed to sell out of your route. For example, I talked to the person, the rep that was, trying to get me to do it, or that was, working with me to do it. And I'm like, so if I go to the drag strip, let's say I use my truck and I haul my dragster there. I can't sell a tool to someone there. They say no, because you might be selling to someone who's on someone else's route, and that person has to, take care of that customer that bought the tool from you. But to go on, I skimmed over that thing from Val Tools. I haven't did it completely, but it's bullshit. It's just bullshit. My local tool guy, him and his wife got married. I think she had a tool route. He had a Matco tool route. She went and decided to do her own thing and leave Matco. They sued him and took his route from him because of her. Because, conflict of interest, all this stuff. When they both had separate contracts that were entered into before they got married, look, these big tool companies, they do not care about their salesmen, period. All they care about is selling tools and making money. They just want to make the money. And if anything interferes with that in any way whatsoever, they're going to pull the plug on it. Let's see. Therefore, while Sears started having refurbished ratchets behind the counter. Bastards. Yeah, every now and then they would rebuild one for me. And at that point, it had started turning to shit. It had already become shit. The ratchets wasn't worth a flip. It didn't take. You could break them. You could strip the gears off by hand. You didn't have to put a cheater pipe on it. You could strip them out by hand. They are standard corporate money, which is why Tekton business model can choose to make 10 cents a screwdriver in America and be happy and proud versus making 25 cents a screwdriver. I agree. I like Tekton. I really like Tekton. It sucks that you got to cut out the middleman, the salesman. But to be able to get a foothold, they have to maximize profit. And like with Tekton, so they're selling direct to consumer. That means someone doesn't have a job, but they're able to bring a little bit of GDP or increase the GDP of the United States, which is a big deal. And that was something I was wanting to talk about. I really don't know how to really slide into that topic. But talking about Vim, the big thing I was hoping was that they were going to manufacture their own stuff. And part of that manufacturing helps, inflate our GDP, or inflate it. That's the wrong word. To increase it. We're going to need more manufacturing. We're going to need to bring manufacturing back to the United States to increase GDP. The service industry that we currently we're that's how we make our money. A lot of the money in the United States is through the service industry, and it's growing exponentially. Um, I can look back when I was a kid, and people did not eat out nowhere near what they do now. It just didn't happen. And but we see that that's normal to eat out multiple times a week. And it wasn't just because we were poor. The people didn't do it. But now you see, you know, uh, different fast food joints all over the place. And it's because we are growing, the service industry is growing by leaps and bounds in the United States. And that's what it takes to employ people. And these jobs are typically not quality jobs. Manufacturing jobs are usually quality jobs. They have insurance, which insurance ain't what it used to be for those jobs, but they have insurance. They have 401ks and stuff. Now, McDonald's, I guess they pay good money in some places, but don't get fooled. You go to McDonald's in Eastern Kentucky, and they're still only paying $7 an hour. So it's not, every one of them don't pay their people $20 an hour or whatever it is. You go to these low income areas, and they ain't making a whole lot of money at McDonald's. So it's also important for bigger defense manufacturing. It helps a lot. And to have bigger defense, we have to increase the defense budget. And to increase the defense budget, we have to have a reason. And that reason is war, which I'm not so sure about all that. You know, here's my view on that. Typically, a young man that's never been to war thinks he wants to go to war. After a reasonable person sees combat, they're okay with peace. Sometimes it becomes something you not thrive on. It's like an addiction. And I can understand that. I didn't want to deploy. I didn't want to go, possibly be in combat and possibly shoot someone. But I missed it. When I wasn't there, it was like I didn't feel at ease. I felt more at ease over there. Everything seemed easier when I was over there. I'll tell you, sitting on a FOB, a forward operating base, it wasn't FOB, on a base. I was on Bagram, Christmas of 2011. It'd been 2011. I think I came home in 12. So it was Christmas 2011. And we get our Christmas present just like we'd get a 4th of July present and a New Year's present and a Thanksgiving present from the Taliban or Al Qaeda or whatever they wanted to call them at that time, where they would lob rockets in, and they'd always do it on a major holiday. That was just their present to us, is rockets. And the way they did it was fairly ingenious, because by the time it was in the air, they were long gone. They would take and they would freeze them in a tube. And that way, when the mortar or rocket would come down, when it would thaw, it would come down and boom, it'd come, they just lean it up and So it was very inaccurate, but they got lucky. But yeah, it's hard to combat that when they're gone. So we can send counter battery as soon as the round is in the air. We know where it came from, and we can send counter battery. The problem is they're not there no more, and we're destroying a mortar tube or something. We're not hitting the enemy. But that was their present to us. And I said that to say to talk about how that feeling of being there where you were at ease. The sirens would go off. First of all, it was going to happen. The sirens would go off, but I just wanted to lay in my bed because I had the not idea. That's the philosophy of, if I go run to the bunker, I'm just as liable to get hit there as I am in my bunk. So why try to make it to the bunker? So it's it's a weird feeling, but said all that to say this. Once you've been to war, you really don't want to. It's not what you think it is in no way, shape, or form. And you're okay with peace. So I would be okay with having a smaller defense budget if it meant we could be in peace. But I don't think with the human race there's a such thing as peace. I don't think we're built for that. We're built to advance and take over and constantly be pushing to be in charge. I could be wrong. But anyway, did all that make sense? If it didn't, I'm sorry. See, it's also important that took the women out. I'm going to skip over that one, Tank. Both parents working means more tax income. No one making dinner anymore. I agree with that. I think it's a big deal. I do believe in the traditional family. I believe it was like that for a purpose. That we do have gender roles. We do. We're naturally born with these. Now, some people it isn't natural, and we see that all the time. We also see people that fight against their nature. And the older the longer we go on as society, the more that we've killed that nature. We kill it. We don't want to be associated with it. Our women don't want to be nurturers, and our men don't want to be the hunter gatherers. It's just, and we see that. I mean, we see it all the time. And how many of your men out there can be a hunter gatherer, can go and work a job digging a ditch, can go do all this stuff? It's just between my generation and my dad's generation. It's hugely different. Between my dad's and his dad's, there's a big difference there too. I'm sure my dad's dad went hunting way more than my dad did. My dad was born up in the mountains, in the woods, and he took me hunting maybe 5 times. We went rabbit hunting a couple times, squirrel hunting a few times. I only remember, I only remember 4 or 5 times. We went fishing a pretty decent amount. And then you take me. I've never took my boys hunting. Never. and I'm ashamed of it. And I haven't took them fishing as much as I should. Like, I really need to get back to taking them fishing. At least I can do that. And it's not just, it is great to spend the time with your children that way, but you're teaching them a life skill that they can fall back on if they need to, where they don't have to rely on the store to get their stuff. The whole Tank, you're bringing us off on a whole different subject. uh, let's see. My dad wanted to go to Vietnam. When he went to Marine boot camp in '73, found out they stopped sending troops there after he got into boot camp. My granddad barely knew how to heat a hot dog when Grams passed. He has drastically improved that, but he virtually never had to cook. Yeah, I understand. Walter, I understand completely that whole deal. I was young once. My first time out, I was like, I was ready. Um, or uh, it, it's I don't know. It's a weird thing. If you've never experienced it, it's a weird thing. The first time I had a bullet whiz past my head, it didn't click what was happening. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But it sounded like a bumblebee on steroids. These were, I think they were Dushka rounds. In other words, they're roughly the same size as our, well, I think they're 14.7 millimeter or 12.7 millimeter. One of the two. I think they're close to our 50 cal. But it was like, woof, woof, woof. And about the third or fourth one, and I started hearing them smack the wall behind me. And they probably weren't going by my head. They were probably going over my head. And they were smacking the building, the big wall behind me. And they smack. It's just a weird splat sound. And I was heading. I knew we'd already took incoming, and no, there wasn't a V bit involved. We had took incoming, so we were heading out to the berm to go to be on be on guard, be ready. So it was pretty interesting deal. I got up on the berm, and we're sitting there, and these berms are made for like a squad size or a team size element. And we were getting rounds in the wall right in front of us. We even received a dud. It landed like 20 foot in front of us, and just little poof come out. It didn't explode. It was about the size of a grenade launched from a grenade launcher. Surreal. It's just surreal. And you're just up there, and you got people acting all kind of different ways. You got one guy up here just indiscriminately firing, and then you got me on the other hand. There was no target to fire out. There was kids that were out there that had kind of got caught in the middle of everything, but the fire was coming from the wood line, and you couldn't see it. And with my M4, I couldn't reach it. It was that far away. I couldn't reach it with my M4. It would took a crew serve weapon, which is a 240 Bravo. Saw may or may not reach it. I mean, you have to raise it up and get it out there. So it's funny. It's weird. A lot going through your head, but you're there. You don't really want to be there, but you're comfortable there. You're I don't know. um, but you talked about your granddad with a hot dog. So that's one thing. I don't know. I never met my grandfather on my dad's side. I did meet my grandfather on my mom's side. On my mom's side, my grandfather cooked most of the meals. There was some weird issue there with grandma and papa, and I think they were just together to be together at that point. I don't think I, I don't think they were, you know, still in love. You know, they slept separate beds. They never like sat on the couch together or even sat in the same room together and watched TV or nothing. Grandfather did 90% of the cooking. Grandma would cook um, desserts for like family get-togethers and stuff. The only thing that they did together and they like went all in, it was like a team effort, was when Grandpa would bring home a cooler full of catfish from the dam, and they would put them up. They would um, prepare them, and then they put them in old milk cartons and put water in it, seal them up, and freeze it. But also canning. When they canned whatever it was, tomatoes. Done. I seen them can tomatoes a lot. That's when they worked together. Now my grandfather on my dad's side, he passed away when my dad was 18 months old, I believe. He he was involved in the illegal production and distribution of alcoholic substances, and there was an argument, and I think someone thought there was a snitch in the group, and the fingers got pointed at my grandfather, and they hung him up by his neck. And yeah, so that's mountain folk. That's where I come. That's where I come from. I was born on the mountain. The the same doctor that delivered my mother in the same hospital, I believe. I think my mom was born in the hospital. Is the one that delivered me. I know it was the same doctor. I just don't know if it's the same hospital. Hospital doesn't exist anymore. But I was born in Arab, Alabama. Um, that mountain is Sand Mountain. There's other names, uh, but yeah, my family, both my mom and dad's family, are from up and around that area. Um, so yeah, Morgan City is the center of it, and if you ever go through Morgan City, as far as I know, there's still not a stoplight, but there is. Let's see, what's a good landmark? Well, you go into the center of town, which is where a group of buildings is, and there's there's an old gas station on the right hand side, and behind that's where my grandfather got strung up. So there it is. I wouldn't mind moving back there. Let's see. Uh, Many a day sitting on grandma's porch snapping beans for canning. Did that a little bit with my grandma and grandpa. Um, they lived out on the mountain for the first part of my childhood till at least. So we moved away when I was 6, almost 7, to Florida. And when we come back, we helped my grandma and grandpa move from Kentuck Valley. I think that's how you say it. Near, near the mountain, uh, to Decatur, Alabama, in old Ford Stake truck. I remember, and I was probably 11 or 12 years old. But we had moved to Florida and we moved back to Alabama. But yeah. So yeah, I can't really claim I'm from the woods, even though I was born up in the hills. Um, when I was six, five, four, probably 4 or 5 years old, we moved to Huntsville. And from there, we lived in the city most of our life, if not in the just outside the city, slightly country, but still fairly populated. Um, so I didn't get raised, feeding chickens and all that. The only time I got to experience all that was when I would go visit my grandparents. Even my dad's mother lived in, more popularized areas, you know, after that. Um, Never got to meet my grandfather on my dad's side. He died young at age 39, dropping dead of a heart attack. Grandfather on mom's side, he went to school with Harry Morgan. He was in my life. Grandfather on mom's side, he went to school with Harry Morgan. That's yeah, that's something else. 39. It's just and one thing, my grandparents, they either lived old or they died of something tragic early on. And there two things almost got my mother's dad. Two different things. One, and I don't know the order in which these happened. I think so. One thing that happened was my one of my aunts was hanging out with these boys, and of course, my grandfather didn't like it, and just like any man doesn't like any boy that their children hang out with, their daughters hang out with. Um, there was a lot more to it. The bottom line is these boys were men, young men, but men, and they met my grandfather out somewhere, and they tried to slit his throat. Well, he made it home, and they got the doctor out there, and they fixed him up. So that's one time he almost bought it. But the second time he almost bought it, he worked for the um, uh, it's not the fire department, but it's like a on call emergency deal, kind of like a fire department on Redstone Arsenal. And they had a mustard gas leak, which this was classified until the 90s. They had a mustard gas leak, and he inhaled a considerable amount, and it took one lung and the bottom lobe of his other lung, and he was disabled the rest of his life. He the only work he ever did after that was he helped the local farmer. Man, what is his name? Rod? No, Mr. Skidmore. He helped Mr. Skidmore out with his chickens. Mr. Skidmore's probably dead, long dead by now. I met him a few times, but guy lived in a big old house down in the valley. Had all that land in that valley. It was pretty. And cows and 3 chicken houses. He had to be very wealthy back then. Yeah. Grandfather on my dad's side was a heavy smoker, loved greasy foods, which causes a heart attack. Yeah. See, I was brought up on fried everything. Fried okra, fried squash, fried green tomatoes. We ate everything fried. it, it was, I don't know how my grandfather didn't die of a heart attack, but that son of a gun lived to be in his 70s. After all that crap that happened to him, he lived to be in his 70s, dipped snuff, and what got him was, I believe, cancer in his stomach. I think that's what got him, and it almost took my grandmother because they both dipped snuff, that old Bruton snuff, the powder stuff, and so grandmother. Now I know her whole deal a little better. It's for some reason it stuck there. They had to pull out a significant portion of her colon, and she was in a colostomy bag for forever. And somehow they were able to remove the colostomy bag and get her back. And she lived into her 70s, pretty well into them. See, she had issues here and there, but she didn't die until I was in Korea. It was 2001. I come home to see her December of 2000. When I got back, about a week later, she passed. So yeah, she lived a pretty good time after Grandpa passed. So she had to be in her late 70s because Grandpa was in his early 70s. Her mother lived to be in her late 80s, but her dad died early, 40s or 50s or something like that. I think he was still alive when I was born, but I don't remember him. Grandpa Goodson. So y'all have all kind of information on me now. Y'all. Oh man, I've run everybody off. We got 4 people in here now. We've been at it for 57 minutes. Y'all got to hear about my bloodline. Y'all knew I was from the South. Y'all probably didn't know I was a hillbilly. Or at least I come from a bunch. I don't know if you'd consider me one, but anyway, appreciate y'all joining me tonight. I'm probably going to delete this one because there's a lot of personal information people could piece together if they were, hackers. So y'all take care. Thank y'all for watching me and putting up with this. I really appreciate y'all. I'm up in the air about next week. Okay. Next Sunday. So I'm going to be leaving out early Monday morning, after next Sunday. So just, be looking for it. I'm going to try to still do it. But in all reality, I should probably be making sure I got stuff straight. Y'all take care. Have a great week. Have a blessed week. See y'all the next time. I got some indigestion.